Okay, so let's come to our mats today. We'll come onto our back and soles of the feet on the mat, arms down by the sides, close the eyes. You could bring the hands on the body if that feels better. Take a deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. Deep breath in through the nose, out through the mouth. One more like that. Deep breath in, out through the mouth, let it go. This time in through the nose, back out through the nose. Keep going with this breath. Observing how no matter how you ended up on your mat today, this breath is already changing things, bringing you to a more balanced state. So commit to keeping it going or coming back to it as quickly as possible. Blink open the eyes, hug the right knee in toward the chest, give it a little bit of a squeeze, and then cross the right ankle on top of the left thigh. Maybe you keep the left foot down on the mat. You could bring the legs in. We're starting with thread the needle. Keep that right foot flexed. And you want to keep the legs active. You're not here for very long, so practice moving that right knee away from you and the left knee in toward the body at the same time, so that if you did let go of the legs, they would stay right in the same spot. But hang on to the back of the left thigh. We don't want you straining to hold the legs in the same position. And then extend that left leg up. Try to stay in the hip opening, which means continuing pushing that right knee away from you without using the hands. Left toes can come down toward the face, so you press up through the heel. Interlace the fingers back behind the head. So now you are having to keep the legs right in place. Look up, take an inhale. On the exhale, lift the shoulder blades up and away from the mat. Inhale back. Exhale up. Legs stay in the same shape. Inhale back. Exhale up. Try to keep that hip opening going. Inhale back. Exhale up. Inhale back. Exhale up. One more like this. Inhale back. Exhale up. Set the head down. Set that left foot back down to the mat. Right foot down to the mat. Hug the left knee in toward the chest. Give it a squeeze. Left ankle, right thigh. Find your thread the needle on this side. It could be in a different place. Maybe the legs come in closer. You grab onto the back of the right thigh. And for that core work, which we're not doing right away, if it doesn't work to keep the legs lifted, you can just come back to sole of the right foot on the mat and keep working that left knee away from you. You're still getting the hip opening and the core work. Keep the legs active, both legs. Try to stay in that left hip, even as you extend that right leg up. Left toes come down toward the face, heel goes up. Keep the legs right where they are. Interlace the fingers back behind the head, rest the head in the hands. Get control of the legs. Once you have that, take an inhale. Exhale, lift the shoulder blades up and away from the mat. Inhale back. Exhale up. Inhale back. Exhale up. Inhale back. Exhale up. Inhale back. Exhale up. One more like this. Inhale back. Exhale up. Set the head down, set the right foot down, set the left foot down. Extend the legs out in front of you, reach the arms forward, hover the feet away from the mat, and you'll just crisscross the feet. So one foot on top of the other. So they're scissor kicks, but they're going wide. Hugging the core in, keeping the feet fairly low, trying not to touch the mat. So it's a little different than when you bring the legs up and down or the feet up and down. You're just going side to side, crisscrossing the feet. And hug the knees in toward the chest, rock side to side. Set the feet down onto the mat. Roll over to your right side. Use the hands to bring yourself up, and you'll come forward to hands and knees. Tabletop. Setting up for cat-cow. So once you have the shoulders over the wrists, hips over the knees, on the inhale, reach the heart forward, lift the tail. On the exhale, round the whole spine, chin in toward the chest. Keep going on your own. You don't have to stay with me. Just follow the length of your own breath to determine how long you're in the shape and before you transition to the next one. You know, you can always take away movement or add more movement in your cat-cow. Start to make your way back to a neutral spine. Walk the hands forward, way ahead of the shoulders. Then shift forward, stack the shoulders over the wrists. Knees are still down on the mat. Lift the belly and lift the chest so the spine gets long. Knees stay down, just bend the elbows halfway. Chest is still lifted away from the mat. Then come back up to the top. So we're doing push-ups on the knees, but I want you to feel it in the core, which is why you're lengthening the spine forward. So bend the elbows, point them back, come back up to the top. Bend the elbows, point them back, lower the chest halfway, come back up to the top. This time, come all the way down to the mat. Tops of the feet come to the mat. Reach the arms back behind you. Palms of the hands face one another, and then lift and spread the chest. Just a little bit of a back bend. It's our first one for this practice. We don't want to take it too far too soon. And then exhale, release. You can either make a pillow with the hands, rest the forehead down. Some people would prefer to bring the arms down by the sides and turn the head to one side. Both work. So you just choose whichever one feels like a more restful place to be. All right. So coming back into it, locust pose, Shalabhasana. Hands back behind you, squeeze the palms together. Tops of the feet stay down. Lift and spread the chest. Tailbone points back, and you squeeze those hands so the arms stay active. They're part of the shape. And exhale, let that go. Turn the head the other way or stack the hands the opposite way that you did before. Then lift the head back up, reach the arms back behind you, squeeze the hands together, lift and spread the chest. Maybe you come up a little bit higher, just keep the lower back long as best you can, and keep pressing into the tops of the feet, the whole foot, not just the inner edge or outer edge. And let that go. Hands come to the mat, come up to hands and knees. Take child's pose, big toes together, forehead comes down. Arms out in front of you, ideally, so you can get that upper body opening. If it feels like it's too much, you can always bring the arms back behind you. Or maybe if it's too much on one shoulder, then just one arm goes forward, one arm can go back. Listen to the knees for where you bring the hips. You want to keep the knees quiet. So that might mean lifting the hips up higher. If your knees are fine, bring the hips all the way back toward the feet. Then lift the head, look forward, downward facing dog. Shift forward onto the hands, tuck the toes, lift the hips up and back. So it's your first downward facing dog, this time on your mat. Maybe there's some movement. Maybe you put a deep bend in the knees. We're all coming to this from a different place. I'm going with wide feet, more toward the outer edges of the mat. Bringing the heels down, hips up. Belly hugs in, lowest front ribs hug in. Sometimes there's a tendency to bring the heart down toward the mat, but that arches the back and takes away length from the spine. And the length of the spine is the most important part of our downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, walk the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. All the way back up to standing on your inhale. Hands come together at the very top, down in front of the heart. Couple more cycles of half sun salute A. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together at the very top, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Inhale, circle the arms all the way up to standing. Bring the hands together, down in front of the heart on the exhale. Changing it up this time. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. On the exhale, fold, widen the feet to the outer edges of the mat. Clasp opposite elbows. Shift the weight so you're a little bit heavier in the balls of the feet and lighter in the heels of the feet. And then once you have this forward fold, you could have a bend in the knees if the legs are tight, especially the back sides of the legs, or if there's any discomfort in the lower back. If not, keep the legs straighter, pull those elbows down. Switch the grip, so other forearm in front with your forearms. Hands come to the mat, bring the fingertips in between the feet, so they're a little bit farther back. Step the left foot back behind you. Keep the right foot where it is. So hands inside of that right foot. It's a wide lizard lunge. Hands underneath the shoulders, chest is reaching forward. Keep that back knee lifted for now. If you need to bring it down, that's fine, but eventually we will be there. So right now, let's keep it up if we can. Blocks could go underneath the hands too if it feels like the chest is too low, but we're trying to avoid any rounding in the upper back. All right, set the back knee down gently. Bring the right hand to the right hip. Open the chest to the right. So you get a nice little bit of a twist in the spine. You can tuck the back toes. See if you can get that back knee a little farther back. Some of you might be comfortable bending the back leg, reaching back and grabbing for the foot. If you want to open up that quad, you bring the foot in closer to the body until you feel that quad stretch. The elbow bends. Listen to the knee. If you have the foot, gently release. Right hand comes back inside the right foot. Then heel toe the right foot back to center, tuck the back toes, lift the back leg. So now you're in a standard runner's lunge, feet hip width distance apart. Straighten both legs. Let the head and the neck go. Modified pyramid pose. Then inhale forward to your lunge. Step the left foot up to meet the right foot. Heel toe the feet wide to the outer edges of the mat. Back to that wide-legged forward fold. Clasp opposite elbows. If you like swaying side to side, you could do that. Just get a little heavier in the balls of the feet, lighter in the heels. Switch the grip of the elbows. Hands come back down to the mat, fingertips probably so you can stay up a little bit higher between the feet. Right foot steps back, then bring the hands down if they'll reach. Chest reaches forward, wide lizard lunge, getting into that left hip. Staying with your Ujjayi breath, definitely here. We're just starting to get into the hips. This is a bigger hip opening. Your body needs that breath moving. Gently set that right knee down to the mat, scoot it back as far as you can. Left hand comes to the hip, open the chest to the left. So find that twist feeling in the spine as you open the chest. This is a great place to be. Maybe you stay here, or maybe you bend that back foot, reach back, see if the foot's there. If it's not, then the left hand just stays on the hip and you let the foot go. If you have the foot, bring it in so you get that length in the right quad as you open the chest to the side. Straps work well here too. You could lasso that back foot and then you don't have to reach as far back. Gently release that right foot, left hand comes back down inside the left foot, heel toe the left foot inside the left hand. So now your feet are hip width distance apart. Tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, straighten the front leg. Hands can walk back if they need to, forward, wherever you want the hands to be for your modified pyramid pose. Then bend that left knee, look forward, step the right foot all the way up to meet the left foot. Inhale up halfway, Ardha Uttanasana. Exhale, bend the knees, hands come down to the mat, step back to plank pose, lower all the way down to the mat slowly. Tops of the feet come to the mat, hands back by the lower ribs. Not your first back bend, so come into cobra. It could be a little bit bigger, but elbows stay bent, hips are down on the mat, belly lifts, maybe, depending on how high up the chest is. Exhale, release, downward facing dog. So you could come to hands and knees, or you could take plank to get to downward facing dog. Hands and knees is a really nice transition. It's gentler. Use it whenever you want to. Bend the knees, look forward to the top of the mat, step, walk, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Surya A, full Surya A. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Bend the knees, bring the hands down to the mat, step back to plank pose, shift forward onto the toes, bend the elbows halfway, chaturanga, come up for up dog, unless you're sticking with cobra. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Rooting down through the inner edges of the hands, index finger, thumb side of the hand. Bend the knees, look forward, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose, lower down halfway, chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, hop, bring the feet up. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. One more before we move on. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhaling up halfway. Exhale, bend the knees, hands come down to the mat, step back to plank pose, lower down halfway chaturanga. Inhale up for your back bend. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Bend the knees, look forward to the top of the mat, bring the feet up to the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold all the way down. Once you get down, widen the feet to the outer edges of the mat like we did before. So wider forward fold with the legs. Fingertips come back so that they're between the feet. Step the left foot back behind you, back in that wide lizard lunge. Hands down, chest reaches forward. Keep the chest lifted so you're not coming down any lower than this. You can always go up higher, but don't go lower. Hands right underneath the shoulders. Heel toe the right foot inside the right hand. Regular distance with your runner's lunge. And then spin that left heel down flat. You need to hop it in a little bit because you're trying to find heel to arch or heel to heel alignment. Right hand could stay outside the foot. You could bring it on a block. Left arm reaches up for side angle pose. So left arm's going straight up to the sky. It's not going up and over the head. Good. And you could also bring right forearm to right thigh if the chest feels like it's too low and the right hip isn't open enough yet. Okay, from here, warrior two, dig down to that back leg so you get the weight even, rise up, gazes forward over that right hand. Straighten the front leg, turn the right toes in to face the side of the mat. Keep angling the right toes in, turn the left toes out. Warrior two at the back of the mat. So same pose, but we're switching legs. Flip the front palm up, reach up and back, reverse warrior. Windmill the hands down to the mat. Come onto the ball, the back foot. Widen the feet a little bit so they're more like hip width distance. Straighten the front leg. You're back in modified pyramid pose. So you're high on the ball, the back foot. Let the head and the neck go as you fold forward over this left leg. Inhale forward to your lunge. Step the right foot up to meet the left foot. So forward fold facing the back of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, chair pose. Bend the knees, reach the arms up. Weights in the heels of the feet, chest is lifted. Keep the gaze straight forward for this chair pose. You're stepping the left foot back behind you, coming into a lunge. Right leg's already in the lunge. You just need to step the left foot back and keep the feet hip width distance apart. Arms are up. And then bend the back knee, lower the back knee almost to the mat without touching it. Then come all the way up to straight legs. So both legs are straight. Go slow. Still high on the ball of the back foot. Turn the toes to the left. So you're facing the other side of the mat. Hands to the hips. Fold forward halfway. Bring the hands down in front of the shoulders. Turn the hands around so the fingertips point behind you. Start to walk the hands back, maybe behind the feet. Let the head come down toward the mat. Shift the weight forward until you feel the weight even in the heels of the feet and the balls of the feet. Keep the muscles in the legs lifting up. Then come up halfway, fingertips underneath the shoulders as you lift the chest. Turn the toes to the top of the mat, facing the top of the mat. Left foot probably needs to come out to the left a little bit. Right foot steps up to meet the left foot. Widen the stance, feet go to the outer edges of the mat, fingertips between the feet, step the right foot back behind you, wide lizard lunge, hands underneath the shoulders, chest is reaching forward. So we're getting into this left hip because we know the next pose is a deep hip opening, just like this one. So I'm hoping that this transition will be a little easier. So heel toe the left foot inside the left hand, spin the right heel down flat, and then hop it in a little bit till you find your footing. Heel to arch or heel to heel. Left hand can stay outside the foot, maybe on a block. Right arm reaches straight up to the sky and you're in side angle pose. Both legs are working. Left hips trying not to go out to the left too much, trying to keep it right behind the knee. Back leg is driving down through the mat. Stay even in both legs as you come up, warrior two. Straighten the front leg, turn the left toes in, keep angling in the left toes, turn the right toes all the way out, warrior two, facing the back of the mat. Hands in line with the shoulders, nice long stance with the legs. Flip the front palm up, reach up and back, reverse warrior. Windmill the hands down to the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot, widen the stance a little bit so feet are hip width, and then straighten the front leg, fold over the front leg, modified pyramid pose. Hands can walk back, hands can go forward. That's up to you. Inhale forward to your lunge. Step the left foot up to meet the right foot. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, find chair pose. Bend the knees, reach the arms up. So chest is lifted, but gaze is still forward. Step the right foot back behind you, coming into a runner's lunge. Feet are hip width, chest is lifted once you get to your crescent pose. Then play with lowering that right knee just above the mat. So it's a deep lunge, wherever that is for you, you find where your challenge is. And then you're coming all the way back up, but this time straightening both legs. Hugging those outer hips in toward the midline. Turn the toes to the right, hands to the hips, fold forward halfway, hands come down in front of the shoulders. Turn the fingertips to point behind you, walk the hands back behind the feet, start to shift the weight so you're even between the balls of the feet and the heels of the feet. Muscles in the legs lift up. And you should feel some spreading across the upper back, depending on how far back the hands are, which can feel really good. Bring the hands back in front of the shoulders, come up onto the fingertips, lifting the chest. Turn to face the top of the mat, finding a runner's lunge with the feet hip width distance apart. Step the left foot up to meet the right foot. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, hands to the mat, step back to plank pose, down dog or vinyasa. Vinyasa might be a nice way to just kind of wash that off before we go through another round. That's always your choice. You can always skip them whenever you want to. Find some space in your downward facing dog. Feel how warm the body is at this point in your practice. Bend the knees, look forward to the top of the mat, step, walk, hop, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way up to standing. Hands come together overhead, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, widen the feet to the outer edges of the mat. Hands walk back, so fingertips in line with the toe tips. Step the left foot back behind you, lizard lunge, hands underneath the shoulders, or you could have hands up on blocks if it feels like it's too low. Back knee is lifted if you can. Heel toe this right foot inside the right hand. Spin that left heel down flat, hop it in a little bit, find your stance. Right hand maybe stays outside the right foot, left arm reaches up, side angle pose. Parshvakonasana. Dig down into that back leg, come up, Virabhadrasana 2. Arms out wide, gazes over the right hand. You're lengthening that right thigh away from you. Trying not to take the chest forward, but keep it lifting up so the spine is going up and down and not reaching forward over the right knee. Straighten the front leg, turn those right toes in, keep angling the right toes in, left toes out, warrior 2 facing the back of the mat. Back leg is straight. It should feel like you want to straighten the back leg because it was bent for so long. So this might be a really nice warrior 2 because it gives that back leg some length. Flip the front palm up, reach up and back, reverse warrior. Windmill the hands down to the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot, widen the feet a little bit, straighten the front leg, modified pyramid pose. Inhale forward to your lunge. Right foot steps up to meet the left foot, still facing the back of the mat. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Bend the knees, Utkatasana chair pose, chest lifts, gazes forward. Step the left foot back behind you, crescent pose. Chest is lifted. Lower that back knee. Play with how low you want to go. Come all the way up to straight legs. So you pass through crescent and then eventually you straighten that front leg. As you reach up, hugging those outer hips in, keeping the chest lifted, turn the toes to the left, hands to the hips, fold forward halfway, hands down in front of the shoulders. Turn the hands around, walk the hands back, Prasarita Padottanasana. Weight even between the balls of the feet and the heels of the feet. Getting our inversion in, head below the heart. Then walk the hands forward, come up onto the fingertips, lifting the chest, turn the toes to the top of the mat, widen the feet, step that right foot up to meet the left foot. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, widen the feet to the outer edges of the mat. Walk the hands back so fingertips in line with the toe tips. Step the right foot back behind you, hands flat, chest forward, lizard lunge. So these might become a little easier as you start to get in them. You're still feeling that hip opening no matter where you are. Left foot inside the left hand, heel toe it in. Hop, spin that right heel down flat, and then maybe hop it in toward the center of the mat. Left hand outside the left foot or forearm to thigh, reach the right arm up, side angle pose, straighten the back leg, keep the lunge in the front leg. Stay even in legs. As you drive through that right leg, come up, warrior 2. Straighten the front leg, turn the left toes in, keep angling the left toes in, turn the right toes out, warrior 2, facing the back of the mat. Left leg is straight, chest is lifted. Keep the legs, flip the front palm up, reach up and back, reverse warrior. Windmill the hands down to the mat, coming onto the ball of the back foot. Widen the stance so you're back to hip width. Straighten the front leg, fold over the front leg. Inhale forward to your lunge. Left foot steps up to meet the right foot. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Utkatasana chair pose. Bring the chest up, reach the arms up. Step the right foot back behind you. Runner's lunge, chest is lifted. Lower that right knee wherever you want it to go. You decide how deep of a lunge you want to do. Come all the way up through crescent, straighten both legs, hug the outer hips in, keep the chest lifted. Turn the toes to the right, hands to the hips, fold forward halfway, hands down in front of the shoulders. Turn the hands around, fingertips point behind you, walk the hands back, let the head and the neck go. Keep those legs active. Then bring the hands underneath the shoulders, lift the chest up halfway, turn the toes to the top of the mat, step the left foot up to meet the right foot, feet hip width, inhale up halfway, exhale, bend the knees, hands to the mat, any way you want, back to downward facing dog. Few breaths in your downward facing dog. Hide the heels behind the balls of the feet. Lift the hips up as high as you can. Keep those shoulders moving up toward the hips, away from the ears. Bend the knees, look forward, step, walk, bring the feet up between the hands. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold. Circle the arms all the way back up to standing. Hands come together, down in front of the heart. Inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, widen the feet, outer edges of the mat. Walk the hands back, fingertips in line with the toe tips. Step the left foot back behind you, hands down, lizard lunge. Chest is reaching forward. So last cycle of this, we'll change it up a little bit this round. Heel toe the right foot inside the right hand. Spin that left heel down flat, maybe hop it in. Side angle pose, left arm straight up to the sky, opening up across the chest, keeping control of that outer right hip and driving that left leg down through the mat. Come up to warrior two. Straighten the front leg, turn the right toes in. Angle in the right toes, turn the left toes out. Warrior two facing the back of the mat. Flip the front palm up, reach up and back, reverse warrior. Windmill the hands down to the mat, come onto the ball, the back foot, widen the stance so left foot goes out to the left. Hop the back foot in so you can bring the sole of the foot down on the mat. Straighten both legs. Left hip goes back, right hip goes forward, fold over the left leg. So now you're in full pyramid pose because that back foot is down. Let the head and the neck go. If for some reason it doesn't work and you'd rather keep that back heel and do it the way we were doing it before, that's fine. But if Parsvottanasana pyramid pose is available, take it. It's a great shape for the body. Come up halfway. Put a little bend in that right knee so you can step, in the left knee, so you can step the right foot forward. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, Utkatasana chair pose. Lift the chest, keep the gaze forward. Step the left foot back behind you, runner's lunge. This time, bring the hands together, right down in front of the heart, open the chest to the right, lean forward, rest the left elbow on top of the left thigh, or hook the elbow outside of the thigh. Go for whatever gives you more length in the spine. Chest lifts, hips lower a little bit, back leg is straight and powerful. Hands come down to the mat, right hand inside the right foot, turn the toes to the left. This time, grab the big toes with the first two fingers and the thumb, come up halfway, and then flare out the elbows, fold down over the legs. Prasarita Padottanasana D. So head's coming down, legs are nice and long. Then come up halfway, fingertips underneath the shoulders, turn the toes to face the top of the mat, widen the feet, step the right foot forward to meet the left. Heel toe the feet wider, outer edges of the mat, fingertips in line with the toe tips, right foot steps back behind you, hands down, chest up, lizard lunge. Heel toe that left foot inside the left hand, narrowing your stance. Spin that right heel down flat, heel to arch or heel to heel. Side angle pose. Right arm reaches up. Both legs are strong. Take it up, Virabhadrasana 2. Straighten the front leg, turn the left toes in, keep angling in the left toes, turn the right toes out, warrior 2 facing the back of the mat. Flip the front palm up, reach up and back, reverse warrior. Windmill the hands down to the mat, come onto the ball of the back foot, widen your stance, right foot out to the right, hop the back foot in so you can seal the heel down, straighten both legs, come up halfway so you can square the hips, right hip goes back, left hip goes forward. Now fold over the right leg, Parsvottanasana. Hands could be down on the mat, they could be back underneath the shoulders. Forward is more intense. So see where your pyramid pose is on this side. Put a little bend in that right knee, step the left foot up to meet the right foot. Feet hip width, inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, chair pose. Bend the knees, reach the arms up. Right foot steps back, runner's lunge, feet hip width distance apart, chest is lifted. Hands come together, down in front of the heart, twist to the left, lower down the chest. Maybe the elbow rests on the thigh lightly, or maybe you hook the elbow outside of the thigh. Keep the spine long, back leg long. Look down at the mat, hands to the mat, left hand inside the left foot. Walk the hands over to the right, turn the toes to the right, grab onto the big toes with the first two fingers and the thumb, lift up halfway, then bend the elbows out wide, let the head and the neck go, keeping the weight even between the balls of the feet and the heels of the feet, even here, shoulders away from the ears, so your neck can be as long as it wants to be. Then come up halfway, fingertips underneath the shoulders, lifting the chest, turn the toes to face the top of the mat, step that left foot up to meet the right foot. Inhale up halfway. Exhale, fold, bend the knees, hands to the mat. Last vinyasa if you want it on the way back to downward facing dog. So once you get to downward facing dog, option for single pigeon. If you know single pigeon doesn't work in your body, then come onto your back and do thread the needle. We'll do the right side. Right leg lifts up and back in your downward facing dog. Reach that right shin forward behind the forearms. So you want the right knee to go outside of the torso. Stretch that left leg back. Top of the foot comes down, squeeze the hips as you lift the chest. And here's where you start to fold forward if there's room to do so. You don't want to feel anything in the right knee. So if you feel anything on the right knee, come back to seated, go on your back and take thread the needle. We did a lot of hip opening today, so we'll spend some time here. Use props if you have them. You can always put a blanket or a block underneath that right hip if it's lifted away from the mat, which probably for most of us it is. You could also put something underneath the head, the chest, hands. If you're in single pigeon, start to lift the head, come back up onto the hands, set any props off to the side. You're coming back to downward facing dog. Tuck those back toes, step the right foot back. Any movement with that right leg, pedaling out the feet or just moving the right leg, maybe doing circles with the knee. If you're on your back, just starting to switch sides when you're ready. Left ankle, right thigh. If you're in downward facing dog, right foot comes down to the mat, left leg lifts up and back. Bring that left shin forward up behind the forearms and left knee goes out to the left. Stretch that right leg back behind you. Keep the chest lifted and then try to square the hips so it doesn't feel like one hip's behind the other. Keep that as you play with folding forward. And sometimes single pigeon works on one side and it doesn't on the other. So don't feel like you have to do it on both sides. Don't feel like you have to be in the same spot on both sides. And that left foot in single pigeon might be closer to the right hip. It might be more forward. You're not forcing it. The only thing I'll say is the farther forward it is, like up by the chest, the more you want that foot to be flexed. If it's closer to the hip, it's okay for it to not, you want to flex it as much as you can, but it just depends on where the weight's falling on the foot. So you'll know if it's impossible to flex the foot. Support underneath the left hip can be nice, especially if it's lifted pretty far up from the mat. And time to come out. So coming back up onto the hands, setting props off to the side. If you're in single pigeon, step it back, downward facing dog. If you're doing thread the needle, rest on your back. Move that left leg around if you've come out of single pigeon and you're in downward facing dog. And downward facing dog, hands and feet on the mat. Bring the knees to the mat. Feet come over to one side. Set the hips down, legs out in front of you. And let's come down onto our backs. So soles of the feet are on the mat. Walk the feet in. So we're all on our back, soles of the feet on the mat. Grab the outer edges of the mat like you're going to rip it apart. You'll feel how the chest wants to lift and the shoulder blades go underneath you. Dig into the heels, lift the hips up, coming into bridge pose. You can stay with the hands like this, or you could interlace the fingers underneath you. If there's enough space in the shoulders, so you don't have to interlace the fingers to come into bridge pose. It's great though, if it's available. We didn't do a lot of shoulder opening today. Can be a tight area of the body. Some of us just have to work too hard to make that happen, so it's not worth it. Slowly start to release. Hips come back down to the mat. We rest for a couple breaths, no counterposing, just resting. Letting go of any effort for one more breath. Same setup as before. Grab the outer edges of the mat like you're going to rip it apart. Feel the chest lift. Press into the feet, lift the hips up. Maybe the shoulder blades go underneath you a little bit more to lift and spread the chest. Keep the arm variation or change it. Maybe you interlace the fingers. See which one's better. Knees point forward, toes point forward, and you're trying to keep the knees and feet hip width distance apart. A lot of times we see the knees and the feet go too wide. Slowly start to release. Hips come back down to the mat. Rest. This is a good opportunity to keep the feet hip width distance apart. If you feel like they've come too wide, narrow them. Press into the feet, lift the hips up. Third and final bridge pose, whatever arm variation's working today. Finding the lifting and spreading of the chest, tailbone up between the knees, thighs lengthening away from you. And slowly release. Hips come back down to the mat. Hug the right knee in toward the chest. Leave the left foot where it is. Then extend that left leg out in front of you. Cross the right knee over the body. So when you do that, you'll have to shift onto the side of the left hip. So it feels like the hips are nicely stacked instead of one behind the other. Right arm can reach back behind you. You can bend the elbow. If it's too much on the shoulder, bring the right arm down by the side. Gaze can go to the right if the neck's okay with it. Come back to center, both feet on the mat. Hug the left knee in toward the chest. Keep the right foot where it is first to start. Extend the right leg out in front of you. Cross this left knee over the body, shifting onto the side of the right hip. Left arm can reach back behind you. You're in your reclined twist. I didn't mention this on the first side, but if this brings any discomfort to the lower back, bring the knees together. That's a great way to do your spinal twist. If you're not feeling anything in the lower back, then just do the one leg. It's kind of a fun way to switch it up. And if you bring the knees together and it's still bothering you, then a block between the knees, to protect the lower back. Look to the left if your neck's okay with it. Find your way onto your back again, soles of the feet to the mat. Once you find center on your back, bring the knees in toward the chest. Hang on to the knees, one with each hand, and then start to move the knees around in a circle, keeping the knees and the feet together. Go the other way. Find center again, hugging the knees in toward the chest. Open up the knees wide, wider than the torso. Happy baby. Don't feel like you have to reach the feet. So if that's just not happening, then go lower. Go back to the ankles, calves, even the backs of the thighs. But think about your wide lizard lunge. It's a similar shape. We've just flipped it over and now you're on your back and you're doing both legs at the same time. So you're flexing the feet. You're trying to bring those knees wide. You're pressing back with the hands on whatever you have, and the hips are going down toward the mat. So the whole back's on the mat, head still down on the mat. We don't want it lifted. And there's some width across the chest too. Happy baby's a big hip opening if we put a little effort into it. Some people like to rock side to side. Some people, it bothers their back. So that's something you want to listen for if that's happening for you. Bring the knees in toward the chest, close the eyes, take a deep inhale in through the nose. Exhale, Shavasana. Extend the legs out in front of you, arms down by the sides. Close the eyes, maybe cover the eyes. That's always a nice way to do Shavasana. Try to get everything else out of the way that you're not using. So if you have blocks or props in the way, shift those to the side. You could even lift the chest a little bit to get the shoulder blades underneath you and start to let go of your breath control, allowing the body to go back to breathing on its own. Doesn't need direction to do that. Maybe just permission. Start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Stretch the arms overhead, getting long on your mat, waking up again. Start to walk the feet in, bend the knees, roll over to your right side, cradle the head on the arm, keep the eyes closed if you can. Just staying here for a moment. Feeling everything inside you move from being on your back to being on your side. Giving it a chance to transition. And then use the left hand, press yourself up to a comfortable seat on your mat to close your practice and a bit of ceremony, some ritual. So sitting up tall, bring the hands together, Bow the head, take a moment, honor and acknowledge your heart and your spirit, as well as everyone around you. Bring the head back up, blink open the eyes. Namaste. Thanks for joining and sharing your practice today. I'll see you next time.